I have come to characterize.
is this a coup, Cherno, or is that an appropriate word? I'm trying to navigate here between the what a process of democratization would look like when you talk about various forces, the youth, women, etc. The ongoing statements that you're making about the elite, and trying to figure out from your analysis, since you say the ballots weren't even counted, there were actions in front of the quote unquote opposition headquarters. Is coup an appropriate word or not, Cherno?
It is. It is basically a coup against the mass, a coup of the elite against the masses, where people voted, their votes were never counted. So the politicians divided along various parties ganged up together to deny the people their right to choose a government of their own choice, to allow them the opportunity to freely vote. They developed laws and several restrictions to prevent people from voting. People were very enthusiastic to vote, to see how they can instrumentalize the ballot box as an avenue to express their voices, and that was denied them by the group of elites across parties. So we have characterized as an electoral coup, a coup that denied the people the right to choose the government of their own choice. So we have a government, an illegal regime that has resulted as a consequence of this electoral contestation, which the people's right to choose has been denied. And that is what they're trying to negotiate now, how to fix. And we have emphasized the fact that you cannot fix illegality. So it's a crisis of the elite. But on top of that, it's a coup. It's an electoral coup, a coup that utilized the instruments of the electoral process to guarantee elite networks and ongoing control of the state.
Going back to looking at some of your reading some of the pieces actually that were part of your of the Africanist press, and you had a number of them over the last several weeks. One which was Subverting Democracy. President Bio rinsed crowds to join campaign rallies. Another one was titled, in fact, Dangers of Endorsing or Participating in an Illegitimate Regime. Is it possible, given the factors that you laid out about the Washington Consensus, this marriage, I'm using the word marriage, between the IMF, between the elites, between militarization in the region, is it possible to instrumentalize the ballot box to the best interest of the populace? How does that work?
That is what we are basically highlighting. If everybody in the world agrees that we have to move away from the only acceptable means of having a constituted authority should be through a civil competition, where individuals who are qualified to vote should be allowed to vote and their votes are properly counted, then those universally accepted principles of political engagement have to be respected. The individuals who advocate that must not be the individuals who subvert that. So it's a basic principle of human decency. Each and every individual should be opposed to a situation where a handful of people will gang up to deny the rest of the majority of the population the ability to decide the conditions under which they want to live, including the right to choose their own representatives. So that hypocrisy is what we are basically highlighting. If we have to believe in a common agreement as a community of a nation, of a global community of nations, then we have to play by those rules. So those who advocate that should not be the ones who subvert that process. So we have been highlighting all of the step leading towards that, and pointing out the fact that while they are advocating for elections, a program plot has already been designed to deny the people the right to freely participate and decide for themselves the kind of individuals or who should represent them in parliament, in the local councils, and at the highest level of the state, which is the presidency. So that is what we are not surprised by the outcome, but we also wanted to hold these organizations and individuals and group of nations who advocate that the only pathway to a legitimate authority is through open ballot, open democratic competition. So if that is the case, you have to allow those principles and rules to operate, which they have denied. And in an open theater, in an open field of competition, they try to create violence. We had to warn them. No, you had promised to have a free, fair, transparent, and democratic elections. Allow the people to vote and let us openly count their ballot. In a modern technological environment, it should be easy to demonstrate how this counting process is happening. But they did not allow that. So that facade is what we've come to call out, the hypocrisy of the elite and their international friends.
International friends. So talk to us on that point. Two things, let's throw it out here. One, of course, is that the Sierra Leone elections in the mainstream press, if that's a fair word, they're not, Sierra Leone has an image, and maybe this image is partly what you're speaking about, that these are challenges that B.O. came in, he says, I'm going to improve education, I'm going to stop corruption. He attacked the former president. When you talk about international partners, because many countries, Canada, the United States, and others say, hey, look, there were problems with the elections. Outline to us the role of international partners in developments in Sierra Leone.
Well, it has to go beyond just saying there was lack of transparency in the elections. That is not what it is. People were actually denied the right to vote. The franchise was denied the people. It's not just, there were a range of illegalities. The steps towards leading up to the elections were problematic. The introduction of a new legislation which denied people the right to register. Not only that, the announcement of the results when the counting and the process was still in motion. So this cannot just be called transparency issues. These are issues of illegality. And any government that is the result of an illegal process is itself an illegal regime. It has to be called what it is. So, and you cannot also, remain silent in the face of these irregularities, hoping that the individuals on the ground can negotiate a pathway, fix illegality through their own common consensus. That is not what democracy is about. It's about empowering people with the right and the ability to decide for themselves the kind of government that they want to live under, who they want to represent them. And that right has been taken away. So we do not deal with just lack of transparency issues here. We're dealing with illegalities. We're dealing with a coup where a handful of individuals have ganged up to deny the majority of citizens their right, and this happened in front of the whole world. So we're still waiting to see. Like I said, it is on the back and the knees of that situation that the U.S. International Finance Corporation has approved a $150 million loan to a private foreign company that is running the airport. So that kind of that implicitly emboldens leaders like Mada Bio to believe that they can do whatever they want. They have transformed Sierra Leone into a colony of gangsters, and that is what we are against, and it's happening right in front of the whole world.
Mm-hmm. So was Mada Bio, was he not, and correct me if I'm wrong here, involved in the coup with Valentine Stroessner, and then later in another coup, or is that incorrect there, Colonel?
Yes, he has credentials, coup-making credentials. He has been part of 2 military coups, and now, while in office as a civilian president, has also subverted the democratic will of the people and denied them the ability to have the right to freely participate in the electoral process. So that in itself is another coup. It has to be called that way. And international friends of Sierra Leone and democratic organizations who are engaging the government of Sierra Leone cannot shy away from naming what has happened in Sierra Leone as a coup and taking the necessary corrective steps to address those developments in the language that such developments require.
Mm-hmm. I say that because from reading your press on a regular basis, and we've spoken a number of times over the last decade or so, the Africanist press has spent a lot of time, energy, resources publicizing these issues of corruption and mismanagement. I mean, it's not surprising. Your thoughts on that, meaning that the information is out there for discussion and debate and rejection or exception. You've published a lot of information from the Africanist press.
Yes, and that information is known to all of the actors.